Hey everyone, welcome back to the How to Podcast series. I have another amazing podcaster on the show. We're going to be talking about all things podcasting, and we're going to get a different perspective because my guest is in a different country from where I am, and we're just chatting a little bit about how big Canada really is. It is quite large, and my guest today, Marnie's on with me. We're talking about her podcast and everything. Welcome, Marnie, to the podcast as a guest co-host. Nice to have you here.
Thanks, Dave. So good to be here. Thank you for welcoming me.
Awesome. So let's talk about your podcast journey and tell everybody about what you're working on and a little bit about your show. Let's talk about that at the beginning.
Yeah, sure. So my podcast is the SportsFit Mums podcast. I started it in, I think it was February 2022, while I was nursing my 3-month-old baby. She was my second daughter. And I was following a business coach at the time, and she had a Start Your Podcast challenge. And that year I'd put on my kind of vision board that I wanted to do YouTube. I wanted to start a YouTube channel for my health and fitness coaching business online, which is called SportsFit. However, for all the mums listening, they'll probably be able to resonate with this. I really struggled to show up on camera, 3 months postpartum, looking horrendous, feeling horrendous, brain fog, no sleep, struggling to get a baby to go down, detach from my breast. It was hard. Yeah. So I thought, actually, maybe a podcast is, the way forward for me at this time. So I jumped in this 30-day challenge and never looked back. And, it's now, November 2023, and I'm about to launch Series 3.
Amazing. That's great. What's the theme of your podcast? What do you talk about on your show?
Sure. So Series 1 was all about prenatal health and fitness. So I have a program called Training for Labor. So it was, I was a step ahead of some of the clients that I was working with. My background is an international athlete. So I'd gone through prenatal training and postnatal a couple of times. This is my second time in returning to international sports and being a strength and conditioning coach myself. I wanted to share my prenatal journey up until that time. So it was more around training for labor. And it was also, the first postnatal kind of period. So I did some solo episodes where this might make you laugh, but I was basically recording those solo episodes on my voice notes on my phone while breastfeeding or while trying to push the baby or, something crazy like that. Like, it really was not high end at all. And then I did some interviews with some guests. So I had a baby wearing specialist on, I had a sleep specialist, I had a doula, I had a pre and postnatal Pilates instructor. I had my mindset coach come on, which was really interesting. We talked about changes in identity when becoming a mom and that type of period. And it was great. It was basically, besides having, baby crying in between some of the episodes, maybe. But besides that, it was basically my own, the audience following my journey. And also, the type of people that I wanted to talk to that would make me more educated and knowledgeable about pre and postnatal. It was absolutely fantastic.
Wow. And I guess I know, my children are all grown up and my wife and I are empty nesters. So I feel a little distant from this, but I do remember that there's times where you felt trapped in your home.
Yeah.
And you just didn't have any adult interaction. You didn't have any non-family interaction. And you're just yearning and wanting to connect with people. And a podcast seems like a great way to break out of your home without leaving your home and talk to the world. It's kind of a nice thing to do. I don't think we had podcasting when my kids were little. So does it help you in your journey at all to have these conversations?
Yeah, 100%. Because I think at that time of year as well, it was winter. It's not easy. You don't get maternity leave. You've got to find a way. And I say this in my entrepreneurial journey all the time. You have to find a way to enjoy the journey. of entrepreneurship, because it's not a destination. It's not like a career where you're trying to go up to a certain position, manager or, I don't know, CEO of a business or something like that. If you're in the corporate world, it's really not like that. Entrepreneurship's got so much ups and downs, and one day you're streaming in clients and the next day you're like, I've got to get some more clients, or one day you're trying to launch a new product or service and the next day you're, I don't know, working out what to post on your social media. So like, it's such a journey that you've got to learn to enjoy, and being able to podcast my personal life integrated with my business was literally like, it really did help me through those times. And like I said, I got to interview loads of really cool experts, and it definitely felt like I was more connected. And to be honest, I don't think I would have thought about being able to podcast the way we do now on Zoom had it not been, post-pandemic COVID times. I just wouldn't have thought about it before. And actually, if I think about it, and I don't know how you feel about this as well, David, but like, I actually feel that I am way more connected to my audience and to the guests I have on the podcast than I would do if I had a YouTube channel. Big, bold statement. Don't know if you agree. Yeah.
That's interesting. That is pretty bold. They're almost two different things between YouTube and podcasting, right? And the audience seemed to be a little different too. So what works for one doesn't always translate to the other. So, and the one thing I like about audio first podcast is that you don't have to have really good connection to the internet. You can download the audio to your phone and listen on the airplane or where there's no data or no Wi-Fi connection. So you're not connected to the internet. You can still listen to the file. Whereas YouTube videos are bigger files and connection is important to be able to view. So I like that it's an option because YouTube is a great way to be found. I really like how it's easily searched on YouTube. And some of the audio is hard to find podcast similar to how you would search on YouTube. So there's some give and take back and forth. And I kind of like a blend of both because if you are a YouTube fan, I would like to be there so that you could find me and maybe you come over to the audio side. And then on the other side, I want to be on audio as well because I don't want to ignore people who don't have access to YouTube all the time. So I kind of like a blend of the two. I don't know how you feel about that.
Yeah, I definitely want to come back to something we discussed previously when we spoke about YouTube embracing podcasting. But before I do, I think what I feel like when I listen is I feel like because we can't see them, they're almost just more genuine. And a lot of the podcasts I listen to, there are some episodes where they're recording as they're walking, they're on their morning walk, kind of like vlogging. But because you can't be seen, I feel like I get a better connection with that person, like they're more genuine. Whereas sometimes when I watch YouTube videos, it's sometimes either very scripted or they know they're on camera, like it's, So I just feel generally more connected when just listening to the podcaster who is just on their audio version. Saying that, I am obsessed with there's the Diary of a CEO, which is Stephen Bartlett. He's a UK entrepreneur, now a thought leader, and I watch him only on YouTube. He's good to watch, put it that way. There's another podcast called the High Performance Podcast by two Brits. They started off I started listening to them on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, but now I religiously watch them on YouTube. Ali Abdul, another one. There's a American guy called Tom Bellew who I watch as well. And, it's those kind of bigger, very produced shows that I quite like to watch on YouTube. But then kind of the smaller, podcasters, I just feel like they're more genuine. And that could be, I'm going to be honest here, and say that could just be me and my comfortability on video as well. And that I know that when I'm just talking into my phone on a voice note, ready to upload my episode, while pushing the buggy to get the baby to sleep, that, I'm just being more genuine and imagining that, someone from my audience is there listening, and me maybe sharing my journey that week, has inspired them in some way. So yeah there you go.
I like it. So if you were to meet a new podcaster who wants to start a show and they asked you, should I do an audio podcast or a video podcast? And I'm brand new. I'm not good at tech. I don't have all the stuff. I don't have all the cameras and lights and all the gear, but I want to start a podcast. What should I start, audio or video? Where's a good place to start? What would you say?
Well, I think I'm going to be a little bit biased because I started with just audio and I didn't let any barriers get in my way. Like, jumped on the voice note, recorded an intro, jumped on Buzzsprout, put some music to it. In fact, I think the first time I actually did my intro to my podcast, I think I had my iPad playing some royalty-free YouTube music while I was talking into my voice note. I mean, it sounded so dodgy, but it got the job done, and it got me out there, and action builds confidence, and it was my consistent action every week, showing up and recording a podcast regardless of where I was, what I was doing, and that kind of just snowballed, and all of a sudden I'm now about to start third series. But I'm not going to lie, I would love to jump on YouTube and start recording my podcasts on YouTube for sure. And actually, that probably brings me back to my question to you. I remember when we spoke last time, you mentioned that YouTube are really pushing podcasts at the moment. Is that still true?
Yes. So YouTube is rolling out something in certain countries right now where you can, the same way that your audio goes from your computer to Apple and Google through Buzzsprout, for example, now automatically goes to YouTube. So when I release an episode on Buzzsprout, again, it goes to Apple, Google, Audible. I'm in Africa on AfroPods. I'm in India on 2 apps. So my podcast goes out to all the audio players. And at the exact same time, it's also now connected to YouTube. So YouTube is bringing in my content, and it's not even video. It's just audio with a picture. And you can listen on YouTube Music now.
Wow.
So it's part of a test that's going on. I guess it's not everywhere because some of the people I talk to don't have access yet. So I bring up my screen on Zoom and I do a screen share and I show you the behind the scenes. And people are like, oh, show me that. Click here, because they have never seen it before. But 3 of my 7 shows that I host are now on YouTube. So what's happening, though, is I've been posting my podcast to YouTube as an audio only podcast on YouTube. So that's just an image with the audio attached. And I've been putting it on YouTube so that my guest has a copy of the episode before it goes out to the world. Because sometimes there's a gap between the time I record and the time when it goes live on my audio. So it could be up to 3-4 months. And my guest wants it now. So to get around that period of waiting, I post it to YouTube and give them the link. And I just treated YouTube as like a Google Drive, a storage drive, a backup drive, because it's free and there's no limit. I can upload as much as I want. And my guest gets access to their audio. And if you find it, great, you can listen. I'm not going to hide it. You can listen to the show. But so I have a whole library, 2-3 years worth of uploads I've been doing manually, one at a time. And now that I've connected to my RSS feed to YouTube, I have 2 copies of everything.
Nice.
What I've uploaded and then what YouTube has pulled in. So now I have 2 versions of everything. So now I have to kind of navigate that because the first version I gave to my guest, they have a link. They posted that link to their website. They've shared it with their group. And if I delete that video, all the links are broken. So I got to keep that link alive. And then I have this new version that's come up as well. So I'm trying to work through that. And I wasn't anticipating that, but that's what's been happening so far. So it's pretty exciting. YouTube is really getting into podcasting. So it's coming. If it's not there for you, it is coming.
Yeah, I love that.
And it's really simple to set up. Really, really simple. So.
And I think if we think about the benefits of YouTube, like you said earlier about it being searchable, you know that YouTube's connected to Google, so that search is so much better when posted on there. And I know I've been able to repurpose a lot of my content. So I have an online health and fitness membership, and I do 2 live workouts a week, and I record it via StreamYard, and then it automatically goes to my YouTube channel, but it's an unlisted video. So you have to really search to find it, right?
Okay.
Or you have to have the link. It's not private, but it's an unlisted. So the great thing about that is now with the use of AI, you know, I could pop that link into ChatGPT with a YouTube summarizing plugin, and I could get the transcript for that. I then just copy and paste. That goes off. I can create social media content just from that. It's just so much easier now, you know, if you can actually put it in video format and be able to take, I mean, you could probably take the transcript anyway, can't you? But it's so much easier to create short form video now from a long form YouTube video. So yeah, I think that's definitely the way forward for podcasters. If you can get, you know, on a YouTube channel, it doesn't have to be video like you said, although that's what I do aspire to. However, you know, it definitely can't, any new podcaster shouldn't see that as a barrier, you know, going on video or not going on video, because, you know, I've done 2 series, 2 years worth, using my voice notes and some Zoom interviews like this. So, you know.
Good. I love it. I love it. So yeah, being on YouTube, because I think one thing I hear podcasters say all the time is find me wherever you listen to podcasts. Now, that statement, find me wherever you listen to podcasts, historically was mostly audio versions. But now that YouTube is allowing us to do this upload, technically YouTube is a podcasting hosting site for our content, where they're going to keep our content and play it. And what's interesting is when I upload a new file to my hosting site, it's on YouTube in less than 20 minutes. Bang. It's right up there. 10 to 20 minutes from the time I hit post and make my thing go live on Buzzsprout, it's on YouTube. It brings in everything, all my show notes, my title, everything, my show art. If I have art for my podcast episode, everything goes right in. So it's pretty fast. So it's something that's coming. So I would encourage people, if you're going to do your podcasts on YouTube, is to make sure you have a playlist and then convert that playlist into a podcast on YouTube by rebranding it as a podcast. And then that's the starting point for it to bring in your show in the future. So that's a good way to start if that's where you want to go.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think also we just spoke about, you know, not letting, you know, daunting of you, like the concept of YouTube be daunting or a barrier. Like you said, it's actually super easy. It doesn't have to actually be video. But I think another thing to think about in terms of barriers, and I'm specifically speaking to, you know, mums out there or mums to be, or, you know, or any kind of women juggling, or even is the great thing about podcasting is you can record this at any time PM for you. Like, that's the amazing thing about podcasting, is because it's not live. I mean, obviously some people do it live, and I have done a couple of episodes live where I've recorded it and it's gone to, you know, generally you can record. And I don't know about you, but I don't edit any of my podcasts. So I've never been technical like that. It's not something I'm interested in at all. And I, you know, right at the beginning, I just say, if I'm talking to a guest, I just say, you know, this is live. I'm unlikely to edit it. Let's just go for it and see what conversation comes about, you know. And I think that's really important for new podcasters to understand is there's not endless editing, you know, there's not that at all. You know, just go for it. just be you and just press that record button and see what comes out, because, we all have something valuable to share to the world. And it's a bit of a crime if we all keep it inside, really.
No, that's a good point. And I think people get caught up in the editing side and they're afraid of editing, so they don't start their podcast.
Yeah.
And, as you do this, you'll get better at it, and the need for editing will get less. So at the beginning, it might be a little rough, but you're going to get better every episode, because you're going to listen to it and go, oh, wow, I was in a really noisy room and you can't hear my voice. I'm not going to record there anymore. I'm going to move over here where it's quieter, and now you can hear me better. So you'll learn as you go, and you'll never learn if you don't start. So you have to start. That's the main thing, right?
Yeah.
I heard somebody compare it to writing a book, where they said you can't edit a blank piece of paper. You have to write some words on a piece of paper before you can start editing. So as an author, you have to start writing. You just can't stare at that empty blank sheet of paper. It's never going to work. You have to start writing something. So as a podcaster, you have to do the same thing. You just have to record something so that you can get used to recording.
Yeah, absolutely. I think also I definitely do. I'm the type of person that works with deadlines or people waiting for things. And I think when you podcast, you've got to be pretty disciplined to make sure you're getting your content out there every week. It's quite difficult especially when you're starting out and you're building an audience, because you're like, well, no one's really waiting for this content, right? I know no one's really waiting for my podcast. Some points of success for me was, jumping in like an accountability group. And in that challenge that I did to start my podcast, we also had a bit of accountability and accountability buddy. And we basically just checked in, like we went through all the checklists. I think now you could easily start a podcast in less than 30 days. And I'm sure you would agree with that. You don't need 30 days to start a podcast. I'm sure you could do it within a week, easy, record some episodes, get it all up and running. But having an accountability buddy or telling someone you're doing it and, having a little bit of a checklist and just ticking it all off, breaking the project down into actionable steps is so much more achievable. And honestly, as a influencer in my field, I like to think it really gave me loads and loads of confidence. And I honestly would highly recommend anyone who has something valuable to share to start a podcast. And David, I know I asked you last time, but because you help people start a podcast, don't you?
Yeah, similar to the course that you went through. A lot of my stuff is like one-on-one type stuff that I do. And I'm just kind of there helping people. I've also helped them build their website, that kind of stuff in the background to help them with their podcast. So I have a couple clients now. I have one in the UK I just started with. I have one in Australia. I have a couple in the US and some in Canada as well. So I'm kind of all over the place because I get to meet great people and do interviews and build community with great guests. And then they're like, hey, Dave, could you help me? And so it's kind of working that way. So it's pretty fun.
Yeah. Do you, when you say to somebody like, or they say to you, what can you help with? What can you do for people? And the reason I ask that is because I've gone down the track before of like looking on like Fiverr.com for like a podcast, I don't know, social media person or like, podcast manager or whatever. And in my opinion, it's quite a pricey thing to go through when you're not quite sure of your ROI of the podcasting for your business. And I do it for business. So, my return on investment, it's hard to weigh that up. Like, how do you have that conversation with somebody? Right.
Yeah. So I touch on everything because I have 7 of my own shows. I do everything everything myself. I don't have anybody helping me at all in anything that I do. So again, website, editing, social media, I do everything. So, and then because I do everything, then I can help you with whatever you need. So I kind of have like, when you go to those big fancy restaurants and they have every type of food you can think of, and you can have a little bit of this and a little bit of that. And I don't like that. I'm not going to have any of that, but I really like this. When I go to those restaurants, I usually go to the dessert first, and I get my cakes and pies and stuff. I start with that. But anyway, I kind of do that for podcasting where I help people with what they need. If they don't need editing, then we don't talk about editing. If they already have a website, then that's great. But maybe they just need certain things. And then we kind of build it around. And what I do is I love teaching people how to do this as well. So I kind of work myself out of a job. So I'd rather, if you're something you're curious about, I'd rather kind of work with you and teach you as we go, and then slowly back away, be there as a support in the future. But I'd rather you pick up the tools and the tricks to do it yourself. If that's what you want to do, great. I've actually been hired by a doctor in California. She wanted me to teach her VAs how to do what I do. So I taught her VAs. I didn't talk to the host. I worked with her team, and I showed them what to do, and then taught them, and then moved away. And now her team does it the way I do it.
Wow.
To help the host of the podcast. So I do kind of stuff like that as well.
That's amazing. That's really good, because I think, like, when I was looking for some help, because it was just getting a little bit overwhelming, I think, at the time, but also it was a lot to do with accountability. Like I said before, I'm definitely the type of person that, you know, if there's a deadline or someone waiting, like, for example, if I'm paying somebody to help me produce my podcast, I'm going to have a podcast episode ready for them to produce, right? So I guess when I was looking for some help, it was almost like I didn't quite know what I needed, but they were trying, I felt like it was the whole package or no package, you know, and actually that kind of even overwhelmed me a little bit more. So I like that idea of basically just jumping in and helping, you know, somebody, what is it that you need help with relation to podcasting. So yeah, that's awesome.
Like, I've even helped people just how to use your microphone properly. I've helped people how to make money with your podcast. I've helped some people get, like, a charity now is set up, and through Amazon, you can create like a wish list, which you would have for like a bridal registry for your wedding, where you can put a list of things that you want, that you need, and people can shop from the list and send it to you. So this charity has a page on Amazon, and you can go through their list no matter where you live, click purchase, and they get shipped to their house. And they're not making money, somebody's not giving them cash, but they're giving them a donation of a product they need to run their charity. And the trucks just keep showing up now, as the listeners are like, I can buy you a $5, a $10, whatever the dollar amount is, I can buy you something and I just ship it right to you. So they just created a list of everything they need, including like paper to make copies on their photocopier. They need toner for their printer. They need a new mouse for their keyboard, or they need they need pens, whatever they need. They just made a list, and it just keeps showing up because their audience loves them and they just want to support them. Really simple, right? So
that's amazing.
You know, that kind of stuff.
That's a whole nother topic, actually, monetization. I've always wondered whether there is, you know, something out there, whether it's a membership or, you know, whether it's a particular service that basically, you know, gathers information for you in relation to affiliate product, you know. So like my SportsFit Mums podcast, you know, I could potentially create an Amazon list of things that I use in my exercise classes. You know, potentially there might be some affiliate links to some pre and postnatal activewear. You know, I'm sure there's a whole lot of things that I could actually pop in the show notes to encourage my audience to be, you know, looking into, that's going to be valuable for them, but also has some type of monetization for me. But when I think about that, I think, that will take me a whole lot more time.
Well, the nice thing is once you set it up, though, you don't have to do anything.
That's true.
Once you get the link and you send it out. So, for example, if you had an audio book that you really like, you want to tell your audience about it. This is a book that I really like. It helped me. I'm just going to put it out here. If you want to get the audio book and listen to the book, click the link. And every time somebody clicks the link, from now till the end of time, you're going to get a small payment every time. And you only have to talk about it once. You just put it out there. It's in your show notes. It's on your website. And then people just keep clicking it. So you don't have to keep doing it over and over. I've been playing with my affiliate links. The other one I'm really getting really good success with is the Buy Me a Coffee website.
Yeah.
where people can just make a donation to me. So today alone, just so you know, today alone, I've had $75 come in to me. People are buying at $5 increments, Canadian funds, $5 increments. They bought me 5 coffees at a time. I got 3 emails from 3 different people all at the same time, and they all bought me coffee. So I got a cash donation to me, and I haven't done anything. I just have it on my website. So I have that as a link, and I also have a link that says, if you want to have time with me in my calendar, I'll give you 40 minutes of my time, and it's a $20 donation. I had somebody yesterday sign up for a 40-minute one-on-one talk with me, and they're going to pay me $20 for my time.
Wow.
So you could do that.
I love
You could set that up. And somebody wants to come and work with you and talk with you and have one-on-one time with you. You put it on your website. They click it. They buy it. As soon as they hit purchase, they get a special link to your calendar. It's just for them. And then they have time with you. And then you just sit and work with them. And you got paid to do it.
Yeah.
You're going to make more money doing something like that than, a small amount of money for every click of an affiliate link over a long period of time. So Buy Me a Coffee really works well. You can set it up for free. You don't have to pay anything. It's a great alternative to some like Patreon, where people pay every month and give you money every month, because sometimes people feel like with Patreon that if I create that, then I have to make more content just for those people. And I'm already busy doing what I'm doing, and I don't have time to make extra. So I feel like I'm neglecting these people that want to support me. So instead of doing it every month, just use my Buy Me a Coffee, and then you support me when you want to.
Yeah.
So what I say on my podcast is, I would love to get my wife Jennifer some flowers this week. So if you'd like my wife to have some flowers, please go over to my Buy Me a Coffee, and I'm going to go buy my wife some flowers. And my wife goes, yay! So I just use that money for others.
That is gold. I love that. That's brilliant.
See? And then it's fun for the audience too, right?
Yeah. I really like that, because there's a business, I don't know the term exactly, but, basically, the saying goes something like, unless you're creating an opportunity for somebody to buy from you or, use your product or services, then you're not going to sell anything. You've got to make an offer, right? And actually, podcasting is the same. You've got to, be able to use podcasting if you want. And I'm talking about business because, I use podcasting for my business, but you do have to be smart about it and use it as not only a way of, becoming an influencer in your field, but also a way to, make money, because that's why we're in business. So I love that. Really good.
Right. Yeah. And it costs money to do what we do. It does cost some money. And I think the one thing that I think we all as podcasters and content creators need to kind of work through is, you will never have if you never ask. Sometimes our audience they don't know how much work it goes into this. They don't know the fact that you're taking time away from your family to do your podcast, right? You have costs for your kids. You have all kinds of things. But if I, as a listener, listening to your show, know that you need to buy something for your children, put your children's Christmas presents up on there. Let me buy them for you. I can donate. I'll donate and buy your Christmas presents, and you don't have to worry about it. Or if there's everyday items, this is their favorite snack. This is the cookies they like or the treats they like. Yeah. Let me buy them for you. I love your show, and I love you as a host, and I want to support you. That means you don't have to go to the store. Let me help you. But I can't help you if you don't tell me, right?
So true.
So
true. I really like that. That's definitely, remotivated and inspired me to remember that. I think sometimes in business, especially online business and kind of the industry I'm in, I'm very much surrounded by always providing value, lead magnets and freebies and, do a webinar for free. Like everything's about free. People will come. But actually, that's a great reminder that people do want to reward you for what you give them, and you've just got to give them an opportunity to do that. That's been really helpful. Thank you.
So another thing you could think about too is reach out to your community and say, I'm looking for somebody to help me with my website. I'm looking for somebody to help me with my artwork, or I want somebody with my transcriptions to help me with that, or my Instagram. Your audience might be like, hey, I'm an Instagram guru. I would love to donate my time to you and take that off your plate. I'll do it for you for free. I can't give you money, but I can give you my talent. So I'd love to volunteer and help you. And now you don't have to worry about that. So you just freed your time up, and I will help you create your post for social media.
Yeah.
I want to donate my time. So I can't give you cash. I'm going to give you time. So by even just asking your audience, if there's anybody out there that wants to help me, here's some of the things I need help with, just to balance my business and my family and my podcast. I would love if, somebody could step up and give me a hand.
Yeah.
Great. You never know. There might be somebody listening going, I could do that.
Yeah.
I thought you were okay and you don't need any help. I didn't realize you need help. So now that you've said it, now I'm thinking, hey, I could do that. And now they feel like they're a part of the show.
I never thought about that. That's great.
Right.
And also, I think the one thing, if we go backtrack a little bit to barriers, the one thing that I thought initially when I was first starting out my podcast, that I'd need to pay guests. But what I realized was, and most of the time, almost all of the time, guests coming onto your podcast are, they love sharing what they do anyway, and share their business. But actually, they love that you're able to, use your social media and your audience, to promote their things. So, I've not yet had to pay for any guests on my podcast, but when I first started, I thought I would have to. So that was, something to know for any new podcasters out there, is that, and I've only think I've been rejected twice of a couple of companies I approached and said, jump on, can we go on or whatever. And I wouldn't say rejected. They just wanted, me to send them like a media pack and how many, viewers I had and some stats and, that type of thing. And if I was asked to do that now, I would definitely do that, but this was in my first season and I was like, oh, I don't know, but, as you go on, you do get those figures and you do get those numbers. And actually we connected, didn't we, in a Facebook group, which is a podcast, Be a Guest, find a guest. I think that's where we connected initially. And it's so ironic because I only go in that group like once in a blue moon, really. And then you happen to come up. So, or I'm not sure how we connected, but I see a lot of media cards actually in that group when people are looking for guests, and then people pop up their media image cards, which I think is really cool. But I'm not going to lie, I get a little bit intimidated by some of them. Some of them are really jazzy. I don't know what your thoughts are on that, whether you've got one, whether that puts you off or whether that actually helps you find guests. I don't know.
Yeah, I do like the Facebook groups like that. I find now, though, once you've been podcasting for a while, you start to make connections with your guests. They recommend you to other people, where it starts to happen where you don't have to work quite as hard because you have great content, you have great guests, you treat them really well. And they start talking about you. And once that happens, I have my author podcast. I have 300 episodes in 2 years.
That's amazing.
300. That's a lot of episodes in 2 years. So, and they just keep coming. So, I think as you build your audience, if you do a great podcast and you really care about your audience and you really care about your guest, and it shows, people will come to you. Just be a good human. That's the main thing.
Yeah, I love that.
Is there anything else that we haven't covered today that maybe we can probably use to close off our chat? I would love to have you back again, by the way. I love talking to you and getting your insight. But is there anything else that we can close off with today that we haven't really touched on?
No, but I will leave, kind of a little bit of a thought for anyone that is maybe, resonates with my story about how and when I started in the time of life, just to say, it probably sounds really cheesy, but one of my drivers for doing a podcast was actually, to one day potentially for my children when they get older, if they wanted to ever listen to what mum was like when she was bringing us up as children, I've got episodes there of me, sharing my journey as a mumpreneur. And actually, like, that was one of the driving forces. And I hadn't really realized that until I was talking to somebody recently about launching Series 3, because it's something I've put on the back burner for a little while because life has got a bit hectic. But when I, really started to plan out my intentions for quarter 4 for this year, I was like, why do I really want to jump back on and, do my next series? And actually that is one of the real reasons. Like, it's the real why. It's really deep. It's like, it's a bit of a legacy, because for other parts of business or even in your career, like, when can you ever showcase how you juggled mum life and business or mum life and podcasting? Or you can't. Whereas these are like episodes you can share and go, oh yeah, by the way, when you were 4 months old, I was talking to, a doula about how to survive life. Or, I was talking to a sleep specialist. And actually, the sleep specialist that I got on my podcast actually sleep trained my daughter, my youngest daughter, who is now an amazing sleeper. And every time, I chat to mums about it, I was like, oh yeah, my daughter goes to sleep at 7 p.m. and wakes up 7 a.m., 7:30 a.m. And they're like, what? And I was like, yeah, because I had this sleep trainer on my podcast, like, it's amazing. So that would be my leaving thoughts on podcasting during mum life.
I love it. And I just think, as you're saying that, I'm thinking of all the people in my life that are no longer here, grandparents, ancestors, family members. I would love to hear their voice. I would love to press play and just hear their voice one more time, right? Mm. And I don't have that opportunity because podcasting wasn't around for them years and years and years and years ago. What I wouldn't give to hear their voice. So as we do this, our voice is being captured, shared around the world. And here we are, a guy in Canada and yourself, how it's amazing that we can do this interaction together and share stories and for our kids to hear it. It's like we're building legacy for our family and our history for our family. So there's a lot of great stuff happening through this. And I shared this with somebody else. I've had 2 people that have been on my podcast this past year. And both of them, older gentlemen, have now passed away. And they were guests on my show in the past. And I have this video of us together talking. I have their recordings. I have all that. And you know what I was able to do? I was able to give that back to the family because they don't have this. And so I have video of grandpa, husband, father, dad, brother. I have the video of them talking and us interacting and sharing and me asking questions that their family would never ask their relative. So you get to hear them laugh and all of that stuff. It's such a great moment to send that email and say, here's the video of your dad. It's like, I can give that back to you. Thank you. And you just never know who you're going to interact with. There was one lady in Hawaii when they had that big, massive fire and that part of town got all destroyed by the fire in Lahaina. I had her on my show about 2 weeks before the fire. So I have a video of inside her house.
Wow.
And the house is no longer there anymore. It's gone. So I was able to give her back a video of her home. One of the last videos she has of her inside of her house.
Both so special. Yeah. Yeah.
Who would have thought? Right?
There you go. The power of podcasting. It's game changing. Amazing.
Right there. Amazing. Okay. So we can talk. We can talk for days. Tell everybody again where your podcast is, where you're available, where you are on social media, all the things we do at the end of our show. I'd love for you to do that here so everyone listening can connect with you.
I'm Marnie Wills. My handle is SportsFit Mums on Instagram and Facebook. And my show is called the SportsFit Mums Podcast. and hold me to it. Be my accountability partner, please. Series 3 is coming your way.
Excellent.
Thank you.
I will be listening.
You can.
I can listen, right? I can listen.
Series 3 is all about mums juggling sporting aspirations and mum life. So yeah, just down your path, Dave. All for you.
Beautiful. Perfect. I am in. I am so in. Thank you so much for making time to do this. And, the house is quiet where you are, and we were able to sneak this into your day. Thank you so much for making time for me and for everyone listening here on the How to Podcast series. We're so glad to invite you into our little family we're trying to build here. And it's great to have you here. And I'd love to have you come back. Please come back.
Oh, thank you. It's so awesome to be a part of it. Thank you for having me.
Excellent. Everyone, go check out the show notes. Everything's there. Make sure you support yet another amazing podcaster and share the show. Let everybody know about this. And watch out for ways that you can support financially and help this podcast grow through donations or time or something. There's someone listening right now that can help. So encouraging you to reach out and do your best. Thank you so much for being on the podcast. Hey, it's Dave jumping on here at the end. I hope you're doing well. Thank you for listening to the How to Podcast series. Putting this out there for you. You're starting a podcast and you're like, Dave, the technology is giving me a headache. This editing thing is, I don't know. It's banana pants. I can't figure it all out. And you're thinking, if there was somebody who could help me with my podcast, I would pay them to do the editing for me. Guess what? I'm actually doing that. I have clients now, past guests who've been on the show on one of my other podcasts, on this podcast. I'm doing some podcast consulting. I'm doing podcast editing. I'm helping with people launching their podcast, getting it, all the technology stuff, getting your podcast in all the players, helping you with your YouTube channel, your website. Oh, it just goes on and on. It goes on and on. And I would love to help you. So instead of going to Fiverr or Upwork, I've been on there. I keep trying to get on for jobs and nobody's paying attention to me. And I need attention. I would rather work with you as a listener of the show. So here's what I'm saying. Go to howtopodcast.ca, leave me a voice message, tell me what you need, and let's work out something that works for you and your budget. And if you need full service or you just need something quick like a drive-through type service, I'm there for you. I got you. And if you like what you hear on any of my 7 podcasts, I can do that for you. I can. And I'd love to work with you because you are amazing. And I'm there to help you, whatever you need. howtopodcast.ca. Reach out. Let me know what I can do to help you with your podcast. Thank you for listening. Catch you on the next episode. Take care.